Hi, it's Dan from Kaizen Sports, and today we're going to talk about the actual intention for a warm-up, some common misconceptions, and then as always we'll share our best ideas to help your children warm up safely and effectively. So PE warm-ups, what's the point? Well, usually children have come from the classroom where they've been sat down for a long time, so it gives them a chance to loosen up a bit. It helps heat up their core body temperature in preparation for the British weather. It allows them to disperse some of that excited energy. And then when we get technical, we say it increases the blood flow to the muscles to help oxygenate them so that they can contract effectively. Which of course is all true, but we're missing a huge part, the cognitive side, which is an easy trap to fall into because it is, after all, called physical education. So what do we mean by warming up cognitively? Well, as you know, it takes a few minutes to get into any activity, whether it's work, writing emails, or doing a Sudoku. This is why it's essential to link the warm-up to the learning outcome. And this isn't obviously just sport. We know that cricket isn't an outcome, but developing throwing skills, including overarm and underarm techniques, would be an outcome. So before you deliver the main bulk of your session, consider and plan what your warm-up's going to be. And we'll give some examples in a moment. So physical priming, especially at primary school, is very different to what adults and secondary school children do. And for this, we're going to take a trip to the savannah. A lion never runs after a gazelle and then pulls up with a thigh strain. Adults do, but kids not so much. You never see an 8-year-old playing TIG running after someone and go, oh, my hamstring's gone. So if a child warms up differently to adults and doesn't need to do laps or stretches, what would their warm-up look like? Well, it primarily depends on the activity. If you're working on movement skills, so for example in rugby you might choose to work on changing speed and direction as your outcome, then a warm-up game like TIG would be absolutely perfect because it replicates those movements that you'd be working on later. It might be that you're using netball to teach throwing or catching skills. If we were working on throwing skills, we'd ask children to get a ball each, partner up, and then work on the bounce pass, chest pass and shoulder pass. We'd only need to do this for about 4 minutes or so, and children would warm up as a byproduct because they're still moving. Of course, they might even move with the ball and pass. Either way, you're going to play this for about 4 minutes before the main bulk of the lesson. In striking and fielding, you might be using something like cricket to teach basic striking skills. So, as before, you can pair children up and give them the correct equipment. A tennis racket makes things easier, and then children have a little bit of time to refine the technique of basic striking skills. You might even progress the game by asking the children to strike the ball in the direction of a fielder who aims to catch. And you might be developing something like ball skills through football or hockey. Either way, give them the necessary equipment, ask them to move around the area and then try and TIG another child. If you get tagged, remember, you're not going to sit out or anything, it's just the warm-up. Children get to move around and be active, but then they also start tuning into the lesson outcome itself. Let's look at some top tips, and if I can ask you to take anything away from this video, it's this. Stay away from doing laps. It's boring, it doesn't develop any kind of skill set, and it doesn't link in at all to children's energy system. As you know, children tend to be start, stop, start, stop. Think of Dash from The Incredibles. Adults can pace things way more easily and use the aerobic energy system, allowing them to run at a steady pace for a longer period of time. We're working with primary school children. They aren't professional athletes, so please, please, please steer away from doing laps. We should be developing skill sets and helping children fall in love with PE. Laps is just the antithesis of this. So in summary, we can help physically prime or warm up a child by working on fundamental skills or techniques. And yes, if the weather is really cold, then we can still do things like TIG because it gets children moving more. Here there might be a slight trade-off in terms of lesson outcome, but we're not going to ignore it completely. We want to cognitively warm up for the activity that we're about to do. This gives them time to think, focus and switch on. So when we do this, we make sure that we link the objective to the lesson outcome. Ultimately, we want every part of the PE lesson to be enjoyable, to maximise the lesson outcome and help children to build that competence and refine techniques. An effective and appropriate warm-up is the first part of this. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, then please like the video and share it with anybody else that might find it useful. And as always, remember to subscribe so that you can catch next week's video. I'll see you then.